Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Aurora and stared at the massive alien vessel floating in space before them. 3 days ago, the ship had appeared out of nowhere near Earth's outer colonies. It was huge, made of some kind of crystal material that sparkled like diamonds, and it had been sending friendly messages in perfect English. The aliens called themselves the Canine, and they wanted to meet with humans. Jake, as the commander of the Aurora, had been chosen to make first contact. He was nervous but excited. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. "Sir, they're requesting permission to beam aboard," said Lisa Hayes from her position at the communications console. She was young, maybe 25, with short red hair and bright green eyes that showed how excited she was about this historic moment. "Permission granted," Jake replied, straightening his uniform jacket. "All senior staff to the main meeting room. This is it, people. First contact with an alien species." Ben Carter, the science officer, was already running scans on his equipment. He was a tall, thin man with thick glasses who loved learning new things. "Captain, their ship is giving off energy readings I've never seen before. Whatever technology they're using, it's far beyond anything we have." Amy Collins, the ship's navigator, looked up from her station. She was a small woman, with black hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Sir, should I alert Earth Command about what's happening?" "Not yet," Jake said. "Let's see what they have to say first." The meeting room was set up perfectly for first contact. The long table had been polished until it shined, and there were flowers from the ship's garden placed around the room. Jake had practiced his welcome speech a dozen times. Everything was ready. A bright light filled the center of the room, and suddenly 12 aliens materialized before them. Jake's breath caught in his throat. They looked like wolves, but they walked on 2 legs like humans. They were covered in thick fur that ranged from silver to black to brown. They had long snouts with sharp teeth, pointed ears that moved and twitched, and bright blue eyes that seemed to glow. Most surprising of all, they had 6 limbs instead of 4, with an extra pair of arms. The largest alien stepped forward. He was covered in silver fur with patches of black, and he wore what looked like a uniform made of the same crystal material as their ship. When he spoke, his voice was deep and friendly. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Pack Leader Vorthak of the Canine people. We have traveled far to meet you." Jake stepped forward and cleared his throat. "Welcome to the Aurora, Pack Leader Vorthak. I am Commander Jake Morrison, representing humanity. We are honored to meet you." Vorthak's tail began to wag, just like a dog's tail. It was such a familiar gesture that Jake almost smiled. Maybe these aliens weren't so different from Earth creatures after all. "We have watched your species for many years," Vorthak continued. "We have waited until you were ready. For contact, your people show great promise. You care for other creatures, you form packs, you show loyalty and love." The other aliens behind Vorthak were making soft yipping sounds that sounded almost like laughter. One smaller alien with golden fur kept bouncing on his feet like an excited puppy. "We are pleased to meet you as well," Jake said carefully. "We hope this can be the beginning of friendship between our species." Vorthak's ears perked up and his tail wagged even faster. "Oh, it is much more than friendship, human Jake Morrison. Much more indeed." Something in the alien's tone made Jake feel worried. "What do you mean?" The golden-furred alien stepped forward, practically vibrating with excitement. "I am Yip Yip, second of the pack. We bring wonderful news." "Wonderful news?" Ben Carter asked, adjusting his glasses nervously. Vorthak nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, the most wonderful news possible." He paused for dramatic effect, his blue eyes sparkling with joy. "You should prepare, human. We're having puppies." The room fell completely silent. Jake blinked several times, certain he had heard wrong. "Lisa," Hayes looked down at her translation device and tapped it, thinking it must be broken. "I'm sorry," Jake said slowly. "Could you repeat that?" "We're having puppies," Vorthak announced again, even louder this time. 3 of them. The joining of our species has been successful." The human crew members looked at each other in confusion. Amy Collins raised her hand like she was in school. Excuse me, but how exactly are we having puppies? Yip Yip clapped his four hands together in delight. The matings were completed 4 of your months ago. Our scouts did excellent work. 3 of your females have been blessed with Canine human hybrid offspring. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. Matings? What matings? Oh yes, Vorthak said proudly. We sent our best young males to Earth to find suitable human females, those who showed great love for canine creatures. The bonding ceremonies were beautiful, even if your females were asleep for most of it. Dr. Sam Wells, the ship's medical officer, stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and a calm manner, but now he looked anything but calm. Are you telling us that your people reproduced with human women without their knowledge? Of course. Vorthak seemed confused by the question. That is how proper pack bonding works. The females are honored and the pack grows stronger. Ben Carter's scanner was beeping frantically. Captain, I'm picking up some very unusual readings from Earth. 3 separate locations are showing biological anomalies. Lisa Hayes suddenly looked up from her communications console, her face pale. Sir, I'm receiving emergency transmissions from Earth. Something about unusual pregnancies with strange medical readings. Jake felt like the room was spinning. This was supposed to be a friendly first contact meeting. Instead, it seemed like these alien dog people were telling him they had somehow made human women pregnant while they were sleeping. Pack leader Vorthak, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. I think we need to discuss this situation very carefully. In human culture, we have very specific rules about reproduction. Vorthak's ears drooped slightly. Rules? But this is a celebration. The greatest honor we can bestow on another species. Your females will birth the first generation of a new hybrid race. They will be strong and intelligent, with the best traits of both our peoples. The other Canine were still making happy yipping sounds, completely oblivious to the horror spreading across the human faces. Sir, Amy Collins whispered urgently. What do we do? Jake looked around the room at his crew, then at the excited aliens who seemed to think they had just delivered the best news in galactic history. Somewhere on Earth, 3 women were apparently pregnant with alien hybrid babies, and they probably had no idea how it happened. Yip, yip, Jake said carefully. When you say the human females were asleep during these bonding ceremonies, what exactly do you mean? Oh, dream bonding is the most beautiful form of mating, Yip Yip explained happily. They experienced it as wonderful dreams with beloved canine companions, very pleasant for them, very romantic. Jake Morrison, commander of humanity's first contact mission, realized that he was dealing with a situation that no training in the universe could have prepared him for. Dr. Helen Brooks had been the Aurora xenobiologist for 5 years, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this. She stared at the genetic samples the Canine had proudly provided, her hands shaking as she read the results on her computer screen. This is impossible, she whispered to herself. Completely impossible. The DNA sequences were unlike anything she had ever seen. They looked like someone had taken human DNA and carefully woven alien genetic material into it, creating patterns that should not exist in nature. But the most shocking part was how compatible it all seemed. As if the 2 species had been designed to work together. Helen's lab door opened and Ben Carter walked in, looking worried. Any luck figuring out how this is possible? Ben, look at this, Helen said, pointing at her screen. The Canine DNA contains sequences that match human genetic markers almost perfectly. It's like they were made to be compatible with us. That doesn't make sense. We evolved on different planets, probably billions of miles apart. Helen nodded grimly. Unless we didn't. Or unless someone made sure we would be compatible. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarters, Matt Johnson was having the worst day of his career. As the Aurora's cultural specialist, his job was to help humans and aliens understand each other. But this situation was beyond anything he had studied. Vorthak sat across from him at a small table. his tail still wagging occasionally, though less enthusiastically than before. Yip Yip paced around the room, his golden fur bristling with nervous energy. "I do not understand the problem," Vorthak said for the 10th time. "In Canine culture, this is the highest honor. We chose your finest females, those who showed the greatest love and care for canine life forms." Matt rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. "But Vorthak, in human culture, females must agree to mating before it happens. They must say yes while they are awake and aware." "But they did agree," Yip Yip interrupted, spinning around to face Matt. "In their dreams, they welcomed our young males with open arms. They were happy and joyful." "That's not the same thing," Matt tried to explain. "Dreams aren't real. Humans need to make these decisions when they're awake and thinking clearly." Vorthak's ears drooped. "Are you saying our dream bonding is not real? This is how Canine have mated. For thousands of years, it is sacred to us." Before Matt could answer, the door burst open and Captain Morrison rushed in, followed by Lisa Hayes and Dr. Wells. "Johnson, report," Jake said urgently. "Sir, I'm trying to explain human concepts of consent, but it's not translating well. They think they honored our women by choosing them for this procedure." Jake turned to Vorthak. "Pack leader, I need you to understand something very important. In human society, what your people did is considered a serious crime." Vorthak stood up so quickly his chair fell over. "Crime? We brought honor to your pack. We created new life that will bridge our species." "Without permission," Jake said firmly. "Without the women knowing what was happening to them." Yip Yip whimpered softly. "But they seemed so happy in the dream sharing. They played with our scouts. They laughed and smiled." Lisa Hayes looked up from her communication device. "Captain, I have Earth Command on the line. They want to speak with you immediately." Jake sighed. "Patch them through." The view screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Patricia Ross, Commander of Earth's Space Forces. She looked angry enough to melt steel. "Morrison, what the hell is going on up there? We have 3 women in hospitals with pregnancies that are showing up as non-human on every medical scanner we have." "Admiral, the situation is complicated." "Complicated? Morrison, are you telling me that aliens have somehow impregnated human women without their knowledge or consent?" Vorthak stepped into view of the screen. "Greetings, human leader. I am Pack Leader Vorthak. We are so pleased to share this wonderful news with your pack." Admiral Ross stared at the alien for a long moment. "Did this thing just call me a pack leader?" "Admiral, the Canine seem to view humans as similar to Earth dogs," Matt Johnson explained quickly. "They think in terms of packs and breeding programs." "Breeding programs?" Admiral Ross's voice went up an octave. "They think we're animals?" "Not animals," Vorthak said, confused. "Honored packmates, we have watched your species for many years. You care for the creatures we seeded on your world. You show loyalty and love. You are worthy of joining the great pack." "Seeded?" Dr. Wells stepped forward. "What do you mean, seeded?" Yip Yip bounced excitedly. "Oh yes, thousands of your years ago we placed genetic markers in many creatures on your world. The canines were our greatest success. They became perfect companions to humans, helping us study your species." Dr. Helen Brooks's voice came over the intercom from the lab. "Captain, I need to speak with you immediately. I think I understand what's happening." "Put her on screen," Jake ordered. Helen's face appeared on another monitor. "Captain, the genetic analysis shows that Earth dogs have been genetically modified. Their DNA contains Canine markers that have been guiding their evolution for thousands of years." Admiral Ross looked like she was about to explode. "Are you telling me that dogs aren't natural Earth creatures?" "They are Earth creatures," Helen continued. "But their evolution has been guided by alien intervention. And sir, there's more. The 3 women who are pregnant, their medical files show they all work with dogs professionally. A veterinarian, a dog trainer, and a woman who runs an animal shelter." Vorthak nodded proudly. "Yes, we chose carefully. Females who showed the greatest love for our seeded creatures would be most suitable for carrying hybrid offspring. Matt. Johnson looked sick. They've been watching us through dogs, using dogs to study human behavior and select breeding partners. This is insane, Admiral Ross said. Morrison, I want those aliens off that ship and away from Earth immediately. Admiral. Wait, Jake said. If what they're saying is true, those 3 women are carrying alien-human hybrids. We can't just send the Canissari away and hope everything works out. Vorthak's tail stopped wagging completely. You wish us to leave? But the pups will be born soon. We must be here to help with their birth and early care. The women didn't agree to this, Jake said. In human culture, that makes it wrong. But they are honored, Yip Yip protested. They carry the future of both our species. Lisa Hayes suddenly looked up from her station, her face pale. Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Large ships. On the view screen, dozens of crystalline vessels began appearing around them. Each one was even larger than Vorthak's ship, and they were surrounding the Aurora in a perfect formation. Vorthak Quotus' ears perked up, and his tail resumed wagging. Ah, the pack mothers have arrived. They come to welcome the new pups into the great pack. Admiral Ross stared at the screen in horror. Morrison, how many ships are we looking at? Ben Carter checked his scanners. 47 vessels, Admiral. Each one is approximately 10 times the size of the Aurora. They will not be happy if they cannot see the pups, Vorthak said matter-of-factly. Pack mothers are very protective of new offspring, even those not yet born. Jake Morrison looked around at his crew, then at the alien who seemed genuinely confused about why humans weren't celebrating this situation. Outside, nearly 50 massive alien ships waited for permission to welcome hybrid babies that 3 human women didn't even know they were carrying. Admiral, Jake said quietly, I think we have a much bigger problem than we thought. Admiral Ross nodded grimly. Morrison, whatever you do, don't let those ships near Earth. We need time to figure this out. But as Jake looked at Vorthak's confused, hopeful face, he wondered if they had any choice in the matter at all. Dr. Emma Stone had been a doctor for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. She stood in her Chicago Medical Center, staring at ultrasound images that seemed to come from a science fiction movie instead of real life. This can't be right, she murmured, adjusting the ultrasound machine for the 3rd time. The readings have to be wrong. Her patient, Karen Mills, lay on the examination table looking worried. Karen was 28 years old, worked as a veterinarian, and claimed she had no memory of how she became pregnant. Doctor, is everything okay with my baby? Karen asked nervously. Emma looked at the screen again. The fetus appeared normal in most ways, but the bone structure was different. The skull was slightly elongated, and there seemed to be extra limb development that didn't make sense. Karen, I need to ask you some questions, Emma said carefully. Do you remember anything unusual happening about 4 months ago? Any medical procedures? Any strange dreams? Karen frowned, thinking hard. Well, I did have some very vivid dreams around that time. Dreams about dogs, actually. Beautiful, intelligent dogs who could talk to me. But they were just dreams. Emma's colleague, Dr. Alex Brown, knocked on the door and entered looking excited. Emma, you need to see this. I just got off the phone with colleagues in Los Angeles and Miami. They're seeing the exact same thing we are. What do you mean the same thing? Pregnant women with impossible fetal development. And get this, all of them work with dogs, and all of them had strange dreams about talking dogs 4 months ago. Before Emma could respond, the door burst open, and several people in black suits entered the room. The man in front was tall and serious, with short gray hair and cold blue eyes. Dr. Stone, I'm Agent Tony Clark with the government. We need to speak with you immediately about your patient. This is a private medical facility, Emma protested. You can't just barge in here. Agent Clark showed her a badge and some official-looking papers. This is now a matter of national security, Doctor. The information in this room cannot leave this building. Karen sat up on the examination table, looking scared. What's going on? What's wrong with my baby? Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us, another agent said. Don't worry, you're not in trouble, but we need to run some special tests. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Susan Davis was having a similar experience. She sat in Dr. Richard Kim's office listening to him explain test results that made no sense. "Susan, I'm going to be honest with you," Dr. Kim said. "Your pregnancy is showing signs that I've never seen before. The fetal development is unlike anything in medical literature." Susan was 31 years old and worked as a professional dog trainer. Like Karen, she had no memory of how she became pregnant, only strange dreams about helpful talking dogs. "Are you saying something is wrong with my baby?" Susan asked. "Not wrong exactly, just different. Very different." Before Dr. Kim could explain further, government agents arrived at his office as well. With the same official papers and the same serious expressions. In Miami, Linda Price was getting the same news from her doctor and the same visit from government agents. Linda was 26 and ran an animal shelter. She loved dogs more than anything in the world, and like the other women, she remembered only dreams of beautiful, intelligent canines who seemed to understand her perfectly. Back on the Aurora, Jake Morrison was dealing with the most complex diplomatic crisis in human history. The Canine fleet had grown to over 60 ships, and they were all waiting patiently for permission to approach Earth and welcome the hybrid babies. Captain Lisa Hayes reported, "Earth Command is requesting immediate contact. They say it's urgent." The main screen flickered to life, showing not just Admiral Ross but several other military leaders and scientists. Behind them, Jake could see people in white coats who looked like doctors. "Morrison, we have a situation," Admiral Ross said. "We've located the 3 women the aliens mentioned. They're all in protective custody now, and our medical teams are examining them." Dr. Helen Brooks joined the conversation from her lab. "Admiral, what are the medical findings?" One of the scientists on Earth stepped forward. "The pregnancies are real and the fetuses are definitely not entirely human. We're seeing genetic markers that don't exist in any Earth species." Vorthak, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped into view of the screen. "Of course they are not entirely human. They are the blessed joining of our species. The pups will be magnificent." "Pups?" one of the Earth doctors asked. "These are human babies we're talking about." "No," Yip Yip corrected, appearing beside Vorthak. "They are Canine human hybrids. They will have the intelligence of humans and the loyalty and strength of Canine. They are the future of both our peoples." Admiral Ross looked frustrated. "And what happens when they're born? Do you expect to take them back to your planet?" Vorthak looked shocked. "Take them away? No, no, no. They belong with their mothers as part of the Earth Pack. But they will need Canine pack mothers to teach them about their heritage." "Pack mothers?" Jake asked. "The elder females who guide and protect the young," Vorthak explained. "They are waiting in the fleet to meet the new pups. This is why we cannot leave. The pups will need both human and Canine guidance to reach their full potential." "Dr. Emma." Stone's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "I'm Dr. Stone, treating one of the pregnant women. Can these aliens answer some medical questions?" "Of course," Vorthak said eagerly. "We will help in any way we can. The fetal development is unlike anything we've seen. Will these babies be able to survive in Earth's atmosphere? Will they need special care?" Yip Yip's tail wagged. "Oh yes, they are designed to thrive in both environments. They will breathe your air, eat your food, but they will also have enhanced senses and abilities." "Enhanced how?" Dr. Stone asked. "Better hearing, better smell, stronger bodies, and the ability to communicate with both species through emotion sense?" Vorthak explained proudly. Ben Carter looked up from his scanner readings. "Captain, I'm detecting some unusual activity from the Canine fleet. Their ships are moving into a protective formation around us." On the main screen, Admiral Ross looked grim. "Morrison, our satellites are showing that alien fleet positioning itself between Earth and open space. Are they threatening us?" Vorthak's ears drooped. "Threatening? No, no. We are protecting. There are other species in this galaxy who would not approve of hybrid offspring. We must ensure the pups are safe." "Other species?" Jake asked. "Oh yes," Yip Yip said casually. Many species in the galactic community. Most are not as accepting as Canine. Some might even try to harm hybrid pups if they knew they existed. The room fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. Are you saying, Admiral Ross asked slowly, that there are other alien species out there, and some of them might be hostile? Not hostile exactly, Vorthik said thoughtfully. But they have very strict rules about genetic purity. They would not understand the beauty of hybrid offspring. Matt Johnson stepped forward. Vorthak, how many other species are we talking about? In this sector of the galaxy, perhaps 200. Most are peaceful, but they keep to themselves. We Canine are unusual in our willingness to join with other species. Jake felt like the world was spinning around him. Not only were there alien-human hybrids about to be born on Earth, but apparently there were hundreds of alien species in the galaxy, some of whom might not approve of those hybrids. Captain, Amy Collins said quietly, long-range sensors are picking up something else. Ships approaching from a different direction. They're not Canine vessels. Vorthak's fur suddenly stood up all over his body, and his tail stopped wagging entirely. What type of ships? Amy checked her readings. Unknown configuration, but they're big. Really big. Yip Yip let out a sound that was half bark, half whimper. Pack leader, if the council has detected the hybrid pregnancies. What council? Jake demanded. Vorthak looked more serious than they had ever seen him. The Galactic Species Council. They monitor genetic developments across all worlds. If they have learned about the hybrid pups. What would happen? Admiral Ross asked. Vorthak. S blue eyes were filled with worry. They would demand the pregnancies be terminated and Earth be quarantined to prevent future genetic contamination. Jake. Morrison stared at the view screen where dozens of alien ships were approaching Earth, while 60 Canine vessels prepared to defend hybrid babies that 3 human women were carrying without ever knowing how they got pregnant. Admiral, Jake said quietly, I think we're about to find out if humanity is ready to join a very complicated galaxy. The tension on the Aurora's bridge was so thick that Jake Morrison felt like he could cut it with a knife. On the main view screen, massive ships unlike anything they had seen before approached from deep space. These vessels were dark, angular, and gave off an energy signature that made everyone nervous. Captain, Ben Carter reported, his voice shaking slightly. The approaching ships are 3 times larger than the biggest Canine vessel. I'm reading technology that's off the charts. Vorthak paced nervously across the bridge, his 6 limbs moving in agitated patterns. His silver fur was standing straight up, and his ears kept twitching toward the view screen. Pack leader, Jake said carefully, you need to tell us exactly what we're dealing with here. Vorthak stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. For the first time since they met, the alien seemed truly worried. The Galactic Species Council governs genetic development across this part of the galaxy. They have very strict rules about mixing species. What kind of rules? Matt Johnson asked. Matt. Each species must remain genetically pure, Yip Yip explained, his golden fur also bristling with fear. Hybrid offspring are forbidden. They believe mixing genetics weakens both species. Dr. Helen Brooks joined them on the bridge, carrying a tablet full of her research data. But that's not scientifically accurate. Hybrid vigor typically makes offspring stronger, not weaker. Science is not their concern, Vorthak said grimly. Control is their concern. They fear that hybrid species might develop abilities that surpass their own. Lisa Hayes looked up from her communication station. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the lead council ship. They're demanding to speak with whoever is in charge here. Put them through, Jake ordered, straightening his uniform. The view screen changed to show a being that made Jake's blood run cold. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like stone. Its head was elongated, with large black eyes that seemed to see everything. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical. I am Council Director Zax 471 of the Genetic Oversight Division. You will identify yourselves and explain the genetic contamination we have detected in this system. Jake stepped forward, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. I am Commander Jake Morrison of the human vessel Aurora. This is our first contact with your organization. Humans, Director Zax 471 said, as if the word tasted bad. A primitive species not yet qualified for galactic membership. You will explain how your genetics have become contaminated with Canine DNA. Vorthak stepped into view, his tail tucked between his legs. Director, I am Pack Leader Vorthak. I take full responsibility for the hybrid program. The Council Director's black eyes focused on Vorthak with what looked like disgust. Canine 7742 Vorthak, you have violated 17 genetic purity laws and exposed a protected species to unauthorized genetic modification. The humans were ready, Vorthak protested. They show all the qualities necessary for pack membership. That determination is not yours to make, Director Zax 471 replied coldly. The humans will surrender the contaminated females immediately for genetic cleansing. The Canine fleet will withdraw from the system permanently. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Genetic cleansing? Are you talking about forcing medical procedures on human women? The contamination must be removed before it spreads, the Council Director said matter-of-factly. The human females will be unharmed, but the hybrid DNA must be eliminated. Absolutely not, Jake said firmly. Those women are under Earth's protection, and they have the right to make their own medical decisions. Director Zax 471's expression didn't change. You misunderstand your situation, human. Your species has no rights in this matter. You are not members of the galactic community, and your opinions are irrelevant. Admiral Ross's voice came through the communication system from Earth. Morrison, are we hearing this correctly? These aliens are threatening to perform unwanted medical procedures on human citizens? Yes, Admiral. That appears to be exactly what they're saying. Then they can go to hell, Admiral Ross said bluntly. No one performs medical procedures on humans without consent, alien council or not. Director Zax 471 turned his attention to the Earth transmission. You are Admiral Patricia Ross, Commander of Human Space Forces. Your resistance is noted and will be dealt with accordingly. On Earth, Dr. Emma Stone was monitoring the conversation while staying close to Karen Mills and the other pregnant women. All 3 women had been brought to a secure medical facility where they were being cared for by the best doctors available. Doctor, Karen said, looking scared. Are they really going to try to take away my baby? Emma put a comforting hand on Karen's shoulder. Not if we have anything to say about it. You have the right to make your own medical decisions, and no one can force you to do anything. Susan Davis, the dog trainer from Los Angeles, spoke up from her bed nearby. I may not remember how I got pregnant, but this is still my baby. No alien council is going to tell me what to do with it. Linda Price, the animal shelter owner from Miami, nodded in agreement. These aliens say our babies will be special, able to understand both humans and their species. That sounds wonderful to me. Back on the Aurora, the situation was getting more tense by the minute. The council ships had moved closer, and their weapon systems were charging up. Pack Leader Vorthak, Director Zax 471 continued, You will order your fleet to stand down and allow council medical teams to board the human vessels. No, Vorthak said, his voice growing stronger. The hybrid pups are under Canine protection. We will not allow harm to come to them or their mothers. Yip Yip stepped forward beside his leader. The humans have accepted us into their pack. We are bound by honor to protect them. Then you have chosen to rebel against council authority, Director Zax 471 said coldly. Your actions will have consequences for your entire species. Jake moved to stand between the council director on the screen and the 2 Canine. Director, let me make something very clear. Those women are human citizens and they have the right to choose what happens to their own bodies. If they want to continue their pregnancies, that's their decision to make. And if they choose to have their babies, Admiral Ross added from Earth, then Earth will recognize those children as human citizens with all the rights and protections that includes. Director Zax 471's black eyes seemed to grow even darker. Your species is not advanced enough to understand the implications of genetic contamination. The hybrid offspring could develop abilities that threaten the stability of the galactic order. Dr. Helen Brooks stepped forward. Director, I've studied the genetic samples. These hybrids won't threaten anyone. If anything, they'll be better, adapted to work with multiple species. That is precisely the problem, the council director replied. Species that can adapt and change disrupt the established order. Order must be maintained. Ben Carter looked up from his scanner readings. Captain, the council ships are powering up some kind of weapon systems. And sir, I'm detecting more ships approaching from several directions. Reinforcements? Jake asked. I don't think so, sir. These ships have different energy signatures. I think we're about to have a lot more visitors. Vorthak's ears perked up suddenly. Pack leader, Yip Yip said excitedly. Those are pack mother signatures. The eldest females have called for backup. On the view screen, Director Zax 471 looked annoyed. More Canissari vessels will not change the situation. The genetic contamination will be eliminated. But as Jake watched, dozens more crystalline ships appeared around them, and these were different from Vorthak's fleet. These ships were larger, older-looking, and they moved with a confidence that